Okay, so we're live. Thank you everyone for joining our live stream. We are going to try to go live every single night at 7 p.m. Of course, life happens. We have other events. Like this week, I won't be available on Wednesday or Thursday, but most nights we'll try to go live and you can join us. Ask us questions in the chat. You can send me an email. You can send me a message. I will try to keep track of everybody's comments. Also, we are both live on TikTok. So you can join our TikTok if you'd like. I'm actually going to try if co-hosting with you works this time. Let's see. I'm going to invite you now and see if that works. You should have access to be a
Yep.
co-host. There you are. There you go. Okay, so now we're both live on TikTok. So if you prefer the TikTok platform, you can request to be a guest on TikTok, or ask questions in the chat. So how? Thank you, Roanoke Valley Libertarians, for reposting the stream. If you guys aren't following them, you should follow them. They have some interesting live streams. I was on their live stream last week. We talked about some cool things. So give them a follow if you haven't yet. So how are you doing, Vic?
Great, great, Alana. I'm doing great. It's Monday, and just glad to be back and doing one more day of the streaming with the audience asking all the interesting questions.
Mhm.
Definitely insightful. I like questions that make you think as well. So definitely looking forward to it.
Now this is the first time that we're co-hosting on TikTok. Oops. So if you guys hear feedback on TikTok, because we're both on the same screen while simultaneously streaming on the other platform, just let me know because that was going to be really annoying for the audience. But yesterday we had a guest on. We had a little bit of a debate, so that was interesting. So please, we welcome your questions and your guest appearances. I did get an email today, Vic, that we were approved to be at Sussex County Day, so we're definitely going to be at Sussex County Day. That's coming up next month. It's a one-day event on a Saturday, so if you're in the Sussex County area, come find our booth, ask us questions in person, grab a sign, you know, and come meet us in person. So there are a couple of things that happened in the news today that we can talk about before the questions start rolling in. One is the flag burning um, thing that Trump. I'm sure you've heard about that, Vic, right?
Mhm.
He passed an executive order saying that burning the American flag comes with a 1 year prison sentence, and obviously, I think it's fairly obvious that that's horrible, and it's an infringement of freedom of speech. And although I don't think I would ever burn an American flag. It makes me want to burn an American flag to protest making burning the American flag illegal that way. I'm inviting you on TikTok, by the way. You have to
No,
accept
I don't
the
know
invite.
why it kicks me off. Um, so don't show for 10 minutes. Maybe I should just click on that or and then accept. I don't know. No, I should. Maybe that would. Uh, oh, could you try inviting me again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
Sorry
need to
about
be.
that. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
There we go.
All right.
So what are your thoughts on the flag burning thing, Vic?
So I thought this was a settled question by the Supreme Court. I mean, obviously, I know some people don't agree. I mean, and I'm the one who doesn't agree with certain decisions of the Supreme Court, of course. But I mean, to me, this is question really is not about the Constitution. It really comes down to national rights, and one of the national rights includes property rights. So um, that is certainly what.
By
Uh,
the way, just ignore Chris Columbus. He's
right.
been a troll of mine since
Right.
I ran for school board. We don't base our campaigns on hating Trump, but he is our
Right.
president.
Sure.
So he's going to be making executive orders and making decisions and representing our country. So it's going to be a topic of discussion.
Right.
But go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Of course. The idea, what we believe as libertarians, we believe in property rights. Right. Natural rights includes the right to life, liberty, and property. And certainly, when it comes to anything that you buy, it does become your property. I mean, I actually thought of that when I was still in school, when I was going to school, and I thought, well, if whatever you buy is your property, and so if it is your property, it is your property. It doesn't belong to anybody else, logically, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be yours. You bought it, not anyone else. So even when I was like going to high school, it just never made sense. The entire topic. I mean, I was also aware that actually flag burning is allowed under the laws that govern the dealing with the flag itself. If the flag touches the ground, if the flag is old, I understand that burning the flag is actually under the code guiding the treatment of the flag is allowed. So I just now when it comes to the actual flag burning, I mean that's not something I ever support. I find it abhorrent. If anyone were to burn their own flag, right? If that flag actually they bought it, but of course, if the flag belongs to the government, I mean, if it's owned by the state government or a local government, that's a whole other topic, obviously. Then that obviously, of course, should be prosecuted. We have laws against that, of course. And I don't think anyone is, arguing that the burning of a flag that belongs to the municipal government or a county government or a state government should not be a crime. So um, that is something that that's how I feel about it. Mhm.
Yeah, as far as the same issues being talked about year after year after year after decade, to put it bluntly, whose fault is that? We keep electing the same people from the same two parties who are talking about the same solutions to the same issues with no results over and over and over and over and over again. And we keep saying, well, this time it'll be different. This Republican is different. This Democrat is different. This time it'll be different, just like with communists and socialists. And then you wonder why nothing gets resolved. And we talk about the same things year after year. Trump has been talking about flag burning being anti-American and should be prosecuted for years. He just does that because he thinks it's going to garner more support from his patriotic fan base, but it's actually very unpatriotic to criminalize expression and speech that way.
Right. And
It's very authoritarian.
yeah, and thank you, Lana. And if I could add, I remember looking when I was still going to school. There was, I think it was a class in American government. So there was a cartoon back from I think the late '80s, and because this again, yes, these topics have been discussed for many years. Supreme Court made its ruling, many years ago regarding flag burning. So I remember looking at it. And I was a kid, but I remember looking at the cartoon. So on one hand, it had the one person burning the Chinese flag, and then the commentary below that, oh, this person is a great American, good. He's burning a flag of a foreign government because that government is no good. That's a terrible government. And then the second half had the same person burning the American flags, like, oh, guy, this person hates America. He's evil. This person is terrible. We should lock him up. And all. So the idea is that, well, it's okay to burn flags of a foreign government if you don't like the government, that's considered to be a good thing. But then
then what do you do if you don't like your own government?
Right. Well, I did not support. I mean, I personally would. I'm opposed to somebody expressing their view that, well, if they don't like their government, they should be burning the flag. But it's not about how I feel about it. See, it's never about really how what's one's personal preferences are, what one likes or doesn't like. I mean, President Trump, I know like a month ago, he said he doesn't like when there are goods from Europe that are coming to America. He's like, this is terrible. It shouldn't be happening. People should not be buying here in America goods that come from Europe. But that is his own preference. That is something that that's something that he doesn't like. But the question is, should something that one person doesn't like, should that also be banned? Is that something that where other people should not have the choices to buy the things they want just because one person doesn't like them making those choices? I think that's what that's what it's all about. And listen, I personally, that's not how I would express my disagreements with the government by certainly burning the flag. That I'm absolutely opposed to that. But the question is, is that something that should be criminalized? And that's a separate topic from whether or not somebody does like or does not like that freedom, that expression, right? There are people who think that porn is abhorrent, right? And there are people who want to ban porn, and I'm fully aware of that. But just because some people, like porn and others don't, why should the ones who don't like porn should have, why should they be allowed to basically force their values down on everyone and make it criminal for other people to have access to porn? I mean, that's to me,
Right. And,
right.
just to put it out there, adult entertainment is objectively bad for society and your brain and your relationships. But you can't criminalize choices that people make as long as those choices don't affect somebody else.
Yeah.
But that goes into also, the libertarian position on victimless crimes and the overpopulation of prisons and just the overall authoritarian decisions that Trump is making, like what's going on in D.C. But he did make another executive order that you brought up earlier before we went live, if you want to explain it to everyone, because not everyone knows kind of what that means and what it entails.
So now the number of cities, states, including New Jersey. I mean, this is something that Governor Chris Christie signed into law in 2017. I mean, he all but did away with. Well, we basically have cashless bail. So that means if a person cannot pay bail, that person is not responsible for making the payment. Judges basically make the decision whether or not the suspect is a flight risk, and in most cases, I mean, pretty much. When we look at cashless bail, it's not applied towards people who are suspected of murder, for example, right? It's things like theft. So the argument that was made during 2020 is that the reason why there was an increase in crime is because a number of states and cities have adopted cashless bail. But I mean, I would argue that, and I've seen the studies from the Brennan Institute for Justice and other organizations, there doesn't seem to be a correlation between the cashless bail and increase in crime. There's no correlation between the two. So I know that Trump signed an executive order banning cashless bail. I think that the data kind of speaks for itself. Now, the people who do support it do support getting rid of cashless bail. They argue that people that have committed crime, they're more likely to commit crime if they're out of prison, and those people who are for cashless bail argue that basically cashless bail helps people who cannot afford to pay. So it's and there doesn't seem to be, like I said, Brennan Institute for Justice and other groups, they don't really show any kind of correlation that there's any type of increase in crime when cashless bail is used in those cities and states that have adopted it. So
yeah, it's basically just punishing poor people, which is happens all the time in the justice system. Most of the time, if you can't afford, say something injustice happened to you, maybe you got arrested and charged with something that you're not guilty of, or a cop, like most of them, do not know laws, and they just kind of go arrest happy with people. An injustice happens to you, which has happened to me in the past with police officers. If you cannot afford the 10 grand, the 20 grand, the whatever, to hire a lawyer, you're going to prison. You're going to jail. And so it happens all the time that poor people kind of get the poor end of the stick in the justice system and don't get justice served simply because they don't have money. And this is another example of that.
right, absolutely. Yeah, so that's actually okay. So there's a good. I mean, government having bail is literally paying for freedom. Also goes against the Fifth Amendment, violation of the Eighth Amendment as well. Okay, I think that's actually a good argument here. Yeah, I mean, if somebody cannot afford bail, right? I mean that is and I'm actually thinking about this too. That when people are being read now the Miranda rights, well, if you can't afford a lawyer, right? That's one of the lines. Because not everyone can afford a lawyer, not everyone can afford bail. So
well, unfortunately, the lawyers that get assigned to you are usually not very high quality, and they usually know what they're doing. Unfortunately,
that's a good point. But no, but that's a good. There's actually a Gideon versus Wainwright, of course, is a great Supreme Court case that led to that. By the way, there's a really good movie about that case too, called Gideon's Trumpet. If anyone wants to see it, it's talks all about that case. Really good really good film. If anyone wants to watch the Gideon's Trumpet, yeah, it's regarding the Gideon versus Wainwright Supreme Court case, which then led to people getting a right to have access to a lawyer. So very important decision.
So I got a few more viewers on TikTok, and we have a few more viewers on this stream. So if you're just joining us, Vic and I are running for office in New Jersey. I'm running for District 24 State Assembly, and Vic is running for Governor of New Jersey. We're going to try to go live every night. We do a live stream with the other candidates in New Jersey on Thursdays. Feel free to ask any questions, make comments, whatever. If you want to join as a guest, you can do so on TikTok very easily. Or you can send me a message or just tell me you want to be a guest and you can actually come up here and have a conversation with us. I do limit guests to about 10 minutes. That way it's fair for everyone. And also if you come up here to basically debate one of us, there's an end point, right? Because sometimes you can go in a circle forever. So thank you everyone for joining us. So what else has been going on in the news of interest?
Well, I think that there was the question of the number of European countries they decided. I mean, this is national news, but they basically decided to stop selling package shipments to the United States. This was just I know this was coming from a few countries. I know that currently there's unfortunately one of the effects certainly of the tariff policy was not just certainly higher tariffs, but also not surprisingly there have been customers in other countries that have been boycotting American goods. So that's that certainly has been an issue, and also it's definitely the case that while the tariffs were being negotiated, some of the demand has shifted away from the United States, and so the other governments now, they're, instead of selling their products to trading with the U.S. With people in the U.S., they're now divert their trade towards trade with other people in other countries, which certainly having an impact on American producers. They're trying to sell their goods overseas. So this is this has we do see the effects of the trade wars right here right now. So yes.
So you got a fun question. By the way, I just realized that this looks like a knife. It's not. It's a letter. It's a letter opener. I promise you, I'm not like randomly playing with a knife. It's a letter opener from my drawer. So we got a fun question for you, Vic, on TikTok. Is Vic a Mets or Giants guy?
Oh wow. I'm not really that much of a sports person, to be honest with you. So that's a.
I'm not either.
I'm not.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what sport that is, to be honest with you. I don't lie.
Yeah. This is. I mean, I am familiar with football. I mean, I have seen. I do. I mean, I watch Super Bowl. I do that every year. But yeah, that's. Yeah, I guess I'll go with the Giants. Yeah, I'll go with the Giants. I know when it comes to teams, one doesn't have to live in a state to root for a team that's, you know, in other words, you can live in Pennsylvania and root for a team in a different state. I know that in the United States, it's not maybe like in some countries where if you live in a particular region of another country, that you're expected to root for a team in your region. Like that's not really the expectation of I think that exists here in the United States.
And
And
there are a
then,
few
by the way, when I
places
went to
like
college,
that.
I met plenty of people too that were not in sports, and I thought that was because I was, I'm I was trying to say, well, I'm trying to be this good American and do really be into the things that other people are in. But then I saw that there are plenty of people who are not into sports, and plenty everyone is unique, and not everyone is what. This is what I also love about the kind of the celebration of the individual, that you can be anything you want. You don't have to try to be like other people, and you're who you are. And then you discover some people discover that in high school, some people discover that in college, that there are other people like you. So like you may think that you're unique, and then you're like, oh, I guess you're not so unique. I mean, you're unique as an individual, but there are other people who may share your interests, who may not share the interests of other people who are maybe really into certain areas like sports, for example.
So I actually have a question for you, Vic, as
Sure.
my future governor, I would like to know that what's going on in D.C. If Trump were to do that in our state, well, how would you respond to that as governor?
Well, now I know he has sent troops to 19 states that are mostly red states, and certainly, except for one, New Mexico, there is a Democratic governor. Of course, New Mexico is not really a red state, but I know Virginia has a Republican governor, but Virginia is not really. People want to call it a purple state. It's more of a blue state, and hasn't voted Republican in many years. Well, not that many years, but so no, if and I think there is a reason for why President Trump is doing what he's doing. Of course, if he try to send the National Guard to blue states and areas that had the Democratic governors that certainly Democratic cities as well, there certainly would be plenty of backlash. And I think he's being very strategic in this sense, right? I think that I'm sure people around him advised him not to do that, not to sort of send troops where they would not have the backing of governors and have the backing of mayors and local Democratic governments. So no, but if you were to do that, to send troops National Guard troops to New Jersey. I would definitely. Well, first of all, I mentioned before my position on natural rights, right to life, liberty, and property. I would definitely oppose that. Like I said, I mentioned this before. I would try to make the state of New Jersey. Oh, so you have to get kicked out.
Yeah, I guess we're not going to be able
Yeah,
to go.
we're just.
I've tried like 5 times. So.
Yeah. So just make sure just make it clear. Look, the National Guard is is under the control of the governor. Certainly. Now I understand that the presidents in the past have said, well, I'm nationalizing the National Guard, so to speak. But I would basically I think that if this were to happen in the state of New Jersey. I think that the public would be against it, just like plenty of people would be against it, just like they are in Washington D.C. I think there would be a lot of backlash, and I think one of the results, and we have seen in Washington D.C., where the National Guard has left sort of areas where people clearly made it clear they did not want them. But I would, I certainly would not. Given where I stand on immigration, I certainly would not have the state police or I would make sure that there is no cooperation when it comes to the presence order and the National Guard. So I would.
So you wouldn't cooperate with the.
I certainly would not cooperate. You had the governor of Vermont. Refused to send troops to Washington D.C. and he's Republican, and he refused to send troops to National Guard to Washington D.C. rather. So I certainly would not cooperate. I also understand that if he did try to do it in New Jersey, there, even without me doing anything, as governor, if I were elected, I think that there would be definitely plenty of opposition coming from the state legislature, and there would be plenty of backlash. I don't think they would be able to. Accomplish a whole lot, giving all the opposition from the public and the state legislature. So I think one thing that I see happening right now is that, and I think this is the reason why President Trump has not sent National Guard to Democratic sort of areas like New Jersey, is because I think there are people around him that are concerned that this may lead to a backlash. Something might happen. Nobody wants violence, and I think that sending National Guard to an area where the public is already hostile, that just adds fuel to the fire. And I hope that President Trump would not do that, and I think he's not doing that for that reason. But yeah, I certainly would not. There would be no cooperation coming from the state government. On my end, certainly, because it's about natural rights, life, liberty, and property. People don't believe that in that. That's fine. There's Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution does not list the power of immigration in Article 1, Section 8. Only
Well, it's
national.
my understanding that he's sending the National Guard to these places, specifically in DC, to crack down on crime, not necessarily undocumented
Right.
immigrants.
Well, yes, but if you're looking at, he's also sending it to 19 other states and their Republican strongholds. I think DC, he is, I think, whatever the reason he's doing it in DC, he's also sending it to 19 states. I just want to, make clear that those 19 states, 18 out of 19 of them have Republican governors, and I would say 17 out of 19 are red states. New Mexico and Virginia are not. They're not red states when it comes to presidential elections, although certainly Virginia does have a Republican governor. And so the idea for those 19 states is that, well, the National Guard is technically is under the control of the governor, and those governors do agree with what he's doing. I mean, they're Republicans, and so for Trump, it all makes sense. I mean, he wouldn't be doing that in Democratic states. I mean, he's not doing that in Democratic states.
No.
But I understand if you were to send it to New Jersey, yes, I think I've answered that question.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let's see if we have any questions on TikTok. I think I passed one. No, I didn't. He asked the same question twice. So you also wanted to talk about tariffs, I believe.
Yeah, well, so the yeah, I can definitely talk about tariff. I mean, I talked about that, I think a few days ago, but that tariffs are really not reciprocal. I mentioned how all of them lack any kind of reciprocity. They're not equal. That there's a huge, the tariffs that are being imposed by the U.S. government on other countries are much higher than other countries have imposed it on the U.S. And they're all, they're all higher on the side of the U.S. government. And the point I'm trying to make is that, if somebody's calling that reciprocity, that's not really it. And I mean, these are the highest tariffs since the Holy Smooth Tariff of 1930, and they of course worsened the effects of the Great Depression. Also, I've looked at some of the data, and it does appear that at least 20 states or so are on the verge of recession, and New Jersey is one of them. I mean, that's what the numbers are showing, and that is not that is very unfortunate. I mean, some of those.
Well, because we spent so much money in the state, and people are leaving because it's unaffordable.
Right. Well, that's true. Also, I think the other part is the effects of the tariffs. 39% increase in the price of vegetables in July. For that's not normal. Like that is not. But that is the effect of the tariff policies that work exactly as all of the economies predicted. They've led to the increase in prices, and that is very unfortunate. You have people living from paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make their ends meet, and now they're facing higher prices. That's not. People say, well, but they're going to be buying American. But the problem is that the prices of American products are also going up. So that, which is one of the consequences of the tariffs, because of course the parts that, if you're looking at a car, you look at, many other things, they do come from other countries. So when you raise the prices on aluminum, you raise the prices on steel, the prices on American steel and American aluminum go up as well. This is what we've seen during the presidencies of George Herbert Walker Bush and George Walker Bush, the father and the son. Both of them got rid of the tariffs on aluminum because they saw that the prices on American products that include aluminum have gone up. So I think the issue is, this is the question of, why this is happening. Why are we not we, but I'm not doing it. Like but why is that? Does it seem like our government seems to wants to repeat the philosophy that you need higher tariffs? And I think it's because I think for some people it does look good on paper, right? I mean, if you raise tariffs on foreign products, then people will buy American products that are more expensive. But I
don't even think it looks good on paper because you know anything about.
I'm sorry.
Because if you're a business owner, you know that if the cost of something goes up from either direction, your overhead goes up, and if the overhead goes up, I don't even think it looks good on paper.
Right. But the theory is that because your people are buying American products, that this is going to be good for the American producers. but my question is, there's only, a finite number, a much smaller number of producers compared to the number of consumers, which is the American people, right? There's more of us than there is of them. And basically what this ends up doing, this may very well protect their profits, but at whose expense? At our expense, where we have to now pay more money. So like, I don't, I'm, yeah, this is, I can see how if you were working for a corporation that wants protectionism, which we have seen throughout American history. You had, corporations wanted to be protected, right, from competition, and they insisted on having higher tariffs. I get that idea. Yes, it benefits those corporations at the expense of the consumers, at our expense. We now have to pay more money. Why is that such a good idea? I could never understand, especially coming from some of the people that were complaining, in the years past, how we're seeing higher inflation, why that's a bad thing, how the prices on eggs have increased, and that this is terrible. So why support a further increase in prices of food and other products? It just never seemed to make make any sense. I think the idea, and President Trump has made it clear multiple times, is that he basically sees trade as a zero-sum game, that there are winners and losers. But if you're a libertarian, you're asking yourself, well, I mean, you don't even have to be a libertarian; you can be anything else. If two parties are engaged in trade, if they were not benefiting each other, they wouldn't be engaging in the trade in the first place, right? I mean, you have two consenting sides, right, agreeing to engage in trade with the idea that it would benefit them. If they didn't think it would benefit them, sorry, they wouldn't be engaging in trade. So, but I think the way that well, certain people see it, is that, well, if Americans are buying products from other countries, then Americans are the losers, right? We are the losing side, on the losing side, and then people who sold those products are the winners. But I mean, couldn't that this? I mean, if this may seem strange for a number of reasons, because if somebody wants to buy a product, I mean, why are they losers? Because they spend their own money to buy the product, so they're losers for that reason. But how's that different if that person is trying to buy a product that was made in a different state? Why is that person a loser? That person wants to buy something, that the person is now satisfied because he or she bought something they wanted. I mean, how is it that we as consumers become losers because we buy things? Does anyone expect those products to be free? Or that only matters if somebody who's selling a product is selling that product from another country? I think the idea that, and was trying to understand the logic. Well, the logic here is that somehow when the person selling the product comes from another country, all of a sudden, the person buying it becomes the victim, and the person selling the product becomes um, the winner, right? And the person buying the product in the United States becomes the loser. I never could make sense out of it, because that, if you use that logic, then that should extend to people buying and selling products in the United States between city. Somebody buying a product in Philadelphia from producer who
Well,
made
that
a
might be next. We might
work,
get to that
then
point.
you're why we're gonna raise tariffs now on Americans within the country, because like it just never seemed to make sense. It's almost like this view, with Karl Marx, with all the respect, I don't know, that
Okay, I mean, if
no,
you
but
want
that
to
is really
respect them, I
similar.
mean,
That is really similar, because you have an exploiter, right? You have somebody who exploits, right? And then the person who is working for whoever the owner is, that person is getting exploited. That's really literally the similar zero-sum game, right? And I know that the people who argue with the winners and losers in trade, they would never make that comparison. But I don't think the two comparisons are so different, really. I mean, because you have a zero-sum view of the world where there are winners and losers, right? The
mhm.
people who are in charge, right? The business owners, they're the exploiters. The people working them, they're being exploited, right? Somebody who's selling a product is the winner. Somebody who's buying the product is the loser. But that's not, with all the respect, I just don't see how the world works this way. I can't agree with any of that. So,
So we do have a question on TikTok, but before we get to that, we got quite a few people watching. So I just want to
okay.
reiterate that this is Vic and I are running for office in New Jersey. Rick is running for governor, and I'm running for District 24 Assembly. We will be on the ballot in November. We're going to try to go live every night, life willing, of course. So if you have any questions, you can put them on in the chat. Sometimes the Facebook chat doesn't work, so if you can't post a comment or question there, you can go to X. We're live on X, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. So all of the popular platforms. And if you want to be a guest, you can do that very easily on TikTok, or you can just let me know, and we can figure out how to get you on StreamYard. So the question that we have here on TikTok is, what do we think about the cell phone ban in school? We've been getting a lot of questions about school on TikTok, which I think is interesting, obviously, because TikTok has a younger audience. But I can answer first, if you don't mind, Vic, because we talked about legislation coming from the state yesterday when we had that guest on. And, I don't support any state legislation in either direction for anything coming from the state to public schools, because I don't think public schools really should exist in the first place. But each school, I think, should make their own determination of what they should be doing in school, if they should be banning cell phones or not. My personal opinion on banning cell phones in schools, it has had a positive effect on children almost immediately. I mean, school has only been in session for a couple of weeks, and some of these states and some of these districts that have a ban in effect are seeing kids actually reading and actually talking to each other, and all these things that help the development of a child and helping them learn. It also removes the possibility of them using AI, which is a whole nother thing. So I think it's a positive thing. The kids that are complaining, or even some of the parents that are complaining that kids can't communicate with their parents and they're worried about school shootings, and the kid has a medical emergency and whatnot. I mean, kids have had no access to cell phones for a long time prior to iPhones existing. Prior to, like, when I was growing up, I was homeschooled, but when I did go to public school, I didn't have an iPhone. I didn't even have a flip phone most of the time. And somehow I survived, and I was able to communicate with my parents somehow, and everything was fine. So if there was a medical emergency, or I was sick, or there was an emergency at school, like, parents were notified without cell phones. So I don't think that in modern days it's really a necessity at school. But as far as whether it should be legislated, and the state should be, banning it or allowing it one way or the other, that shouldn't exist. But my personal opinion is that it's a positive thing for schools.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lana. No, I absolutely agree. I think when it comes to cell phones, I don't think there should be a state policy regarding cell phones. Those, as much as I would definitely think that not using cell phones in the classroom is a good idea, because, as you said, students get distracted. There are simple ways to deal with this, such as certainly have a crate at the beginning of the class and have the students turn in put all the cell phones in that crate at the beginning of class, and then have them collected at the at the end of class. I know that other certainly school districts have used sort of different systems where students kind of there would be some kind of holders for cell phones, and then students will place their phones over there, and then we'll pick them up at the end of class. So yeah, different school districts have adopted their own policies even before this law. So there's no need, in my opinion, for a state law banning cell phones, because school districts have been dealing with handling this issue on their own before any state law came into effect.
Yeah, and apparently the way that I've seen them do it, at least in the news, is they have these little bags that they put the phones in, and then they're locked with a magnet or whatever. And at the end of the day, I don't know, they unlock it somehow. And then people are saying that kids are just going to figure out how the lock works, or they're going to apparently kids are putting old cell phones in the bag or in the lock thing, and then they're using their actual phone. To be honest, like, kids are going to figure things out. Kids are smart, and they've been sneaking things into school since school has existed. Like, kids are going to get away with things, and they're going to figure things out. It doesn't mean that you can hand them the keys to do something bad. Just like, if I had children, I wouldn't let them do drugs or drink or any of these things, even though I know at some point they're probably going to do it without my permission and behind my back, but I'm also not going to hand it to them. It's the same concept that cell phones in school are distracting and are bad overall for a learning environment. So you shouldn't have them in school. And even if you have kids that are going to test the boundaries of their teachers, doesn't mean that policy shouldn't be in place. So I don't really think that's an excuse. Just because
Right.
kids can figure things out,
Well,
doesn't
absolutely.
you can just let them do whatever they want.
Right, absolutely. Like a kid might bring more than one phone, right? I'm sure that, right, to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got another one. Right. No, of course, but yeah, no. Cell phones is not just a distraction too. I think that, and look, this is everything has positives and negatives, but really quickly, the because certain number of students, right, certain students spend a lot of time on their cell phones when it comes to actually processing information in the classroom, synthesis of the information that that they're getting, and critical thinking skills. And human mind can only handle so much information. And with all the respect, but I mean, at home, I
Especially
don't.
an underdeveloped mind. Like
Yeah,
children don't
yeah,
have fully developed brains.
when your brain is acquiring a lot of that information from TikTok and all, and it's all coming from the phone. It's as much as I would have loved to believe that human minds can just handle unlimited amount of information. Then when it comes to time for the academics, I mean, yeah, distractions is a big problem. The ability to process information becomes much more difficult. But also, if the students spend a lot of time on their phone, the ability, and even after they do stop, even when they do try to pay attention, the ability to process that academic information coming in the classroom becomes much more challenging. Right? The ability to maintain and remember what they've learned, maintain that information in their heads, that becomes more challenging because, like I said, human mind has a limited sort of a storage, just like a computer, right? You don't want to, I mean, that's when a computer freezes, right? You don't want the same thing happening to the brain. And I'm not, listen, I understand that, I all believe in the individualism and all that, but we're talking about kids, not adults. And, kids are trying to learn, schools have a purpose. And yeah, I definitely believe that not having a cell phone in a classroom is definitely a great idea. And but I wouldn't want a state government passing that policy. Local governments have been handling on their own uh, before this law ever came into being. So,
So there's another question on TikTok, and this is something that is not something that either our candidacies are really going to deal with because it's federal policy. But they ask, "What is your position on Israel or APAC?"
well,
Now,
I've always
like I said, as governor or as somebody in the state assembly, we would have absolutely no power over that relationship, the U.S.-Israel relationship. But for the sake of conversation, if you
well, I
like,
think sure, yeah, I think that foreign governments should be treated just just like any other foreign government, that they all should be treated equally. And so that's when it comes to relations, between the U.S. government and other governments. Of course, as a libertarian, I do, I don't believe I do support a foreign policy that is based on trade with other countries, right? So I'm definitely opposed to economic embargoes, sanctions. When it comes to Israel, people want to choose not to buy products from any country, whether it's Russia, Ukraine. I don't really care. France, Germany, Italy, whatever. It should be their choice. And so but then if people whether they want to choose to buy those products or not to buy those products should be their choice. But when it comes to trade, yeah, I don't think the federal government should be restricting trade between the United States and any of those countries. They want to. So that's certainly how I feel about it. And I know that people sort of they are free to pick sides in any of those conflicts in terms of individually who they think is right and who they think is wrong. But that also means that when it comes to financially, fiscally supporting whatever side in the conflict, I don't think that I do not support the federal government doing that at the expense of the entire population. Choosing winners and losers. Because look, we're all Americans. We live in the United States. People can have their own preference in terms of which side they support. They should be free to support that side. As far as the United States government, the federal government is concerned, it represents all Americans, and the idea that the federal government should just kind of get involved and choose one side over the other. I think it should just stay out of it. Foreign governments, they should be able to settle those issues on their own. Instead of kind of our own government, federal government, picking sides when it comes to foreign conflicts. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with you. I have the libertarian stance a non-interventionist position, so I don't think we should be sending any money or influencing conflicts overseas at all. When I ran for Congress last year, that was one of my platform issues, was being anti-war, meaning that we shouldn't be sending any resources or money or troops to anywhere. That we should be focusing on our own people. Especially since we steal taxes, we steal money from people through taxes and then give it to another government, and fund our own imperialism. But I do have a question because our the Republican candidate in New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli, is that how you say it, Ciattarelli?
It really
I
is.
always say it wrong. He actually just visited Israel, and he claims that he went over there to build relationships with entrepreneurs and businessmen that have businesses in New Jersey, and that would be going over there and building those relationships benefits New Jersey because of those entrepreneurs, which I think is totally a lie. That's not why he went over there. It was clear that he went over there for other reasons. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I live in New Jersey. I'm not running for a leader of another country, so I'm going to be staying in New Jersey. I mean, he can he can do, I guess, as he wants, as he pleases. I don't support it. I would never go to another country. I'm seeking to represent New Jersey. That's not a foreign government. But there are certain things that do come that are state related. Such as the criticism of the definition of anti-Semitism, the that is used by this one particular organization. That if you use that definition the way it's currently used, that would make a number of Israeli human rights organization anti-Semitic by definition, and they're not Palestinian, Israeli ones. And that just, to me, that just crazy. If you have an adoption of a definition such that when one that cannot criticize a foreign government, to me that's a violation of the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I don't, I think people should be free to criticize any government they want, whether it's U.S. government, foreign government.
And that includes burning the flag, by the way.
Yeah, I don't see why they should criminalize. People say, well, that's only when a crime is being committed, but that really shouldn't matter. Like if a person is committing a crime is a crime. Whether a person is committing a crime and out of, I don't know, people I mean, I guess some people commit crimes out of love, but crime is a crime, and crime should be punishable to the fullest extent of the law. But the idea that it shouldn't be that it should be criminalized to say that and if I say it right now, because a lot of people say it, but I'm not. The idea though that you cannot criticize a foreign government, to me, it's just not. That's ludicrous. And again, and that would make essentially like a B'Tselem, that Israeli human rights organization, an anti-Semitic organization, which is ridiculous because it's a Jewish Israeli Jewish organization in Israel, which is a human rights organization. So the idea that it's anti-Semitic, it to me that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, no, I think that people should be free to criticize foreign governments. I mean, that's how I see it. And yeah, people should be free to pick sides. And when it comes to Israel, look, my position is this, right? And this is why I think this is a federal level. But there's a Logan Act that prohibits individuals from trading with foreign governments. I think it should be repealed. I think individuals, if they support a certain government or whatever it is, certain group, they should be free to trade to send weapons to that group. Not the United States government doing that, not the federal government, of course, because that's not nowhere in the Constitution is that allowed to. Right, morality aside and all that. But this is also the reason why I'm against taxpayers funding of abortion, because if you believe that abortion is murder, then how is it moral to force somebody who does believe that it's murder to subsidize the procedure, to force that person to pay for abortion? I feel the same way about the Israeli government and foreign conflicts that take place overseas. I think it's immoral to force somebody who believes that, who does not agree with what a foreign government is doing, to basically take that money, without consent from that individual, and give that money to a foreign government. From a person that does not agree with the policies of that government. To me, that's no different than topics like abortion and other topics. People should not be forced to subsidize actions of foreign governments they don't agree with. So. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. My dogs were barking in the background. But if you're just joining us, we go live every night. We're running for office in New Jersey. Big Captain's running for governor, and I'm running for District 24 State Assembly. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. We're also live on TikTok, on our individual TikToks. You can request to be a guest on there, or you let me know, and I will get you on StreamYard if you have any questions. Just put it in the comments. So, Vic, since we only have about 10 minutes, we go live for about an hour every night. So we have about 10 minutes left. What events are coming up for you, aside from, of course, these live streams, and then also the New Jersey Libertarian Party candidate live stream on Thursday?
Well, and sure, yeah, I mentioned the Sussex County, Sussex Day, rather. That's coming up. No, there are going to be other events happening. There's an event in Plainfield, New Jersey, that's organized by a Greek council, as in fraternity, Greek, Hellenic.
And that's a public forum, right?
There's a public forum, right? Mm-hmm. So there's all these events happening. I mean, they're going to be listed on my website, so people will be free to join those events and come to those events and certainly ask questions as well. So
also, I want to start a new tradition that every time we go live, you're going to officially ask Jack and
yes,
I keep forgetting her first name, Mikey.
Mikey.
I keep wanting to say Nikki, but it's not Nikki. To a debate, because as the libertarians that are watching now, you know that third parties do not get invited to debates, which means that the voter base does not hear all the candidates that are going to be on the ballot. They don't hear all solutions to the issues, because they want you to have the illusion of choice, which is from the two parties. So I think we should harass them every single day about inviting you to the debate because you deserve to be there. And a lot of states, and New Jersey is one of them, Vic would have to raise almost $500,000 to not only be invited to debates, but also have access to public funds to fund his campaign. So in case some of you didn't realize, but your taxes do go to fund candidate campaigns for Democrats and Republicans, and that should infuriate every single one of you. But Vic doesn't have access to that. Not that I don't think any candidate should, but third parties do not have access to those things. So anyways, I think you deserve to be in the debates. So if you'd like to officially request to be on the debate, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done this before. So, I asked Jack. So yes, I officially request to debate Jack Chiarelli and Mikey Sherrill. I'm open to debate you any time of the day, any day of the week. That is my challenge. So if you accept the challenge, please contact my campaign. You know exactly where to find me.
And of course, it's unfortunate that they don't take third parties seriously. And the reason why they don't take them seriously is because we tend to not get a lot of percentage of the votes. But the reason why we don't get a lot of percentage of the votes is because we don't get invited to these debates. We don't get invited to these large media opportunities and public forums. And so people don't even know that we're running until it's time to see our name on the ballot. And by that point, it's too late. So it all feeds into each other. We don't get official ballot access until we get a certain percentage, but we can't get that percentage if we don't get invited to these forums and debates, and we don't get invited to these forums and debates because we don't get enough of a percentage or raise enough money. They get access to public funded taxpayer dollars, because they have ballot access, and because they get a certain percentage every year. But it all perpetuates their power and their influence. And my live is ending for some reason. Hold on a second. I guess I was not moving for too long, and it was asking me to prove that I was a human. Yes, I am a human, TikTok. So they do these things on purpose. They raise thresholds. We're sort of lucky in New Jersey that our signature requirement threshold is not very high. But in other states, some of it is 20,000 signatures, 50,000 signatures. And ours is going to keep climbing to that point. So on top of all the things that they do, so we did actually get comments. I didn't even see them. So on top of not getting invited to debates, not having access to public funds, just getting our name on the ballot requires quite a bit of a financial investment, or a large volunteer force, which a lot of third parties don't have, and that should make you mad. Not because you should vote Libertarian or you should vote Green, but you should have. All candidates that are on the ballot should have the same access to the same opportunities to state their case and make their case to voters. And you should want to know who's on your ballot.
100%.
Not to avoid personal responsibility for people. Like if you get your sample ballot, you should look up all the names that are on there. I certainly do. Although I know who I'm voting for governor this year, so I don't need to know anybody else. No. Okay, so we do have a question from Brian. I don't know when that came in, but it is: do you have a plan on how to see liberty in our lifetime? I mean, that is a question. And I think that's a question that people have been asking and arguing over probably since, the word liberty has existed, even before the U.S. was even a thing, before Libertarian Party. And to me, I'm probably, unfortunately, not going to see liberty for all, I should say. Maybe liberty for me, maybe liberty for my community, maybe even liberty for New Jersey, but liberty for all is probably not going to happen in my lifetime. But what I'm doing today, and the people that I talk to, and the people that I influence, and the people that I introduce to liberty, is getting us that much closer to it for the future. So I try not to think that way, because you can get really down on all the work. I know a lot of libertarian activists that do so much work and sacrifice so much, and the needle moves, barely, a little bit in your lifetime, in the last 20 years or whatever. But Vic, if you want to answer that question.
No, I thank you, Lana. I appreciate those your input and your words and your efforts, and it's not for naught. I look at the prospects for liberty in the last few decades. I know that some of the laws, regarding decriminalizing marijuana, that has not happened. That would not have happened, in my opinion, without libertarians pushing it in the state of California, decades ago. Like that, in my opinion, would not have happened. I honestly believe that, because libertarians were at the forefront of pushing this, message. And so and I actually do remember the time, really quickly. I know we're coming towards the end. And when I was in high school, and the one of the students, he gave a presentation. This was in the 90s, on decriminalization of marijuana. And I remember my health teacher saying, "This will never happen. This will never happen in my lifetime." And so this idea would have been seemed crazy, completely crazy in the late, in 1997. The idea that marijuana would ever be decriminalized anywhere. But yet it happened. I'm somebody who remembers the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, something that people said would never happen, but yet that happened during my lifetime. And I really believe that. I do have optimism. I see some of the progress that has been made. Unfortunately, in other areas, I wish much more could be accomplished. But I think it's about building, spreading the message one step at a time. Look at it this way, okay? This is how I look at it. A lot of the things we take for granted came as a result of people running outside of the two-party system. Now, we may think those are bad policies, and some of them are, I'm sure we would argue, are good policies, but many of them came as a result of people running outside of the two-party system, and standing for those policies, standing for those principles. And that's how they were adopted into law by Republicans and Democrats. And so I think that even, it's not okay. So if libertarians never elect a president, let's say this 50 years from now, at the end of the day, if our policies, what we stand for, gets adopted into law, to me, that's the victory. That would be the achievement of liberty in our lifetime, whether this is done at a local level, a county level, or I hope this will be at a national level. But if this is, could be done at a state level, wouldn't that be great if libertarian policies were put into effect on a state level? And then people who like those policies could move into that state, and wouldn't that be great? So I think that. I do have optimism. I understand that our voting system, first past the post, plurality voting system is the reason why. I've looked at other countries, the reason why we have a two-party system, but that's fine. I mean, the reality is that, if we push for our policies and not people listen, I think it's, we certainly, I'm sure that some of our candidates will win, obviously not all of them, but if our ideas become law, right? Our principles become law. Then we could achieve liberty in our lifetime, whether it's on a state level or a local level, or hopefully at a federal level. But if we're not going to be fighting for those ideas, then who else will, right? Who else will fight for those ideas if not us? So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said, but just to kind of add to what the last thing you said, somebody asked me, I don't know when it was last week, of like, I've run for office 3 years in a row. Why do I keep doing it? How do you encourage other people to continue doing it? And it is kind of discouraging, not necessarily because I don't win, but because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of scrutiny, and it's a lot, like, you have a spotlight on you all the time. And now, people are really starting to get to know me. I can't really walk places. I mean, it's not like I'm a celebrity, but people know who I am at this point, especially in my local area. Um, so you are sacrificing a lot to run for office, even if you're just doing it as a paper candidate, and it's exhausting. And then you feel like you're not kind of contributing to everything. But the way I look at it when I have those days of like, why do I keep doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? Is that if we don't exist, if libertarians are not the dissenting voice to the current system that we're in, there won't be the option to fight back. There won't be that third candidate option. There won't be a way to fight back. There'll just be the Republicans and Democrats that are never questioned. They're never criticized. They're never recalled. They're never they're never challenged, and it'll just get worse. And earlier, when Chris, I don't know if he's still here, was saying that we keep talking about the same things over and over again. I'll say it again. Whose fault is that? We keep electing the same people with the same solutions to the same issues over and over and over and over again. And I mean, maybe try something different next time. What's going to happen? Is it going to get worse? It can only get better if you start making new choices.
Right. No, absolutely. No, thank you, Leno. Absolutely. And I remember, if I could just add, Peter McWilliams, I remember him speaking at the Libertarian National Convention in 2000. And by the way, if you want to read, he wrote an excellent book, Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do. It is available free online. And, I remember him joining the Libertarian Party in 1996. And I do remember, I mean, what ended up happening, he had AIDS, and he ended up being imprisoned. I mean, he used marijuana, and the judge pretty much he argued that his medical condition is no excuse to use marijuana. He ended up dying, and but the people that were not discouraged, they fought to decriminalize marijuana, and they've accomplished that goal. Look at it now, right? People that I remember, Cheryl Miller, she had multiple sclerosis. She used marijuana, and then she was Bob Barr. I mean, I know he later became, well, when I go, retell that story, but one of the ads that she ran, I mean, that was ran where she was mentioned that Bob Barr wanted her behind bars, and we came to a point that marijuana has been decriminalized, and that goal has been achieved. So my message is not to give up hope, and keep fighting the good fight. Because at some point, I think that it's entirely possible that more people would want, they're going to be so disenchanted, disappointed, more people with the Republicans and Democrats, they would want to hear another option. They would want to hear another message. And we could explain, we could tell them that all of these things that they're so angry, are unhappy about, they came as a result of government policy that just, created all these problems. And, who else would be telling those people that message but us, right? We can point out, we easily can give the whole cause and effect part, and certainly I believe in in natural rights, and we can start it off from that point. But if people would want to know how we got to this point, yes, I think libertarians have those answers, and we can explain it to people, and we can tell people how to try to solve those problems. That does not involve doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting different results. So,
And speaking of cause and effect, and it's okay if we go over.
yeah.
And speaking of cause and effect, you never know what that one thing is going to trigger a revolution. Somebody, something smaller than that. Somebody joining the party and running for office, who's going to be, the next person who's going to be the libertarian icon of that decade or whatever. What's going to trigger those things? And I talk about. The suffragettes a lot because, at the time when they were demanding the right to vote, people weren't taking them seriously. People didn't take women seriously at that time. I would argue they still don't in a lot of ways. But it took one of them getting set on fire for them to get some press and for them to be not get attention, but for someone to look in their direction, and it just snowballed from there. Same thing with the American Revolution. It took one, bar fight essentially, coupled with a couple other things we're having at the same time for a revolution to be triggered, and now look at what happened. You never know what's going to be that one thing that's going to ripple into dramatic change, and it could be you, it could be somebody else, it could be someone you're talking to, it could be somebody I'm speaking into the internet void today, somebody who's listening. You never know. And so those historical examples keep me going when I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not influencing anything. It's because you never know who you're influencing and what you're going to trigger, what event you're going to trigger that actually makes change. Maybe one of us will get elected this year, and that will be that extreme change. I don't know, but that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you never know. I mean, things, at some point, people may be, we might have hyperinflation, and, it's like people are going to be looking for something else that's entirely possible, something outside of the two-party system. I mean, obviously, people do think that the two major Republicans and Democrats are completely different on everything from each other. That's not, that's not, but we could come to a point like when we had with Ross Perot in '92, where a lot of people did think that the two parties were, way too similar. They were similar, like they were too like each other, and that just created an opening for Ross Perot in 1992. And for a while, he was actually ahead of both Bush and Clinton in the polls. So, never, never say never. I mean, we could definitely end up in a situation where people are just not going to be just disenchanted with the two major parties. It's entirely possible, certainly at a presidential level. So I'm not going to just discount it. We have in our history, we have seen cases where you had a third party like the Populist Party, having much of an impact to a point where, yes, they certainly have won elections, they have won gubernatorial elections, they've never elected a president, but the Democratic Party pretty much ate it up and became the Populist Party, so to speak. But the reality is that that ended up, of course, being the end of pretty much of the Populist Party. But the idea is that the Democrats championed, that they were the ones that were advocated by the Populist Party, and many of them were put into place. So is it possible? It's entirely possible that we'll have will it always be a Republicans or Democrats? Well, not necessarily. We had Whigs before in the Democrats. We had other combinations. That we had the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans, or the Republicans as they were known. So, I mean, anything is possible. I guess time will tell. Certainly, when it comes to history, like I said, with the collapse of communism and the end of the Soviet Union, one thing I've learned for sure is that history is not, um, you know, um, yeah, absolutely. People sometimes reach a boiling point, and they want other choices. They want other options. So, um,
Yeah, and I actually said this yesterday. But yes, voting for a libertarian or another third party can be basically a protest vote in some people's eyes. But also, uh, there's no other opportunity where someone is going to be have a spotlight and a microphone, essentially be on stage to spread libertarian values and libertarian philosophy. If you run for office, especially higher seats like governor or president or anything like that, um, or even county seats, you're going to get invited to debates. You're going to get automatic media attention. You're going to get that opportunity to speak for the libertarian philosophy automatically without even really trying. You just have to get on the ballot and you get automatic attention. And so if you're seeking to just simply spread the libertarian philosophy and spread liberty that way, running for office as an activist is the best way to do that, because you will get eyes on you. You will get people running up to you to ask you what your opinion is on this, and you tell them the libertarian solution and the libertarian position, you're not going to get another opportunity that's going to come up organically, like you do when you're running for office. Vic, I'm sure you experienced it. People know you're running for office, and they just come up to you and start talking to you about politics. They start talking to you about issues, and they want to know what your opinion is. And your opinion, hopefully, is a libertarian position. But when you run for office, you won't have another opportunity that huge and that big of a platform to be able to spread the philosophy. So running for office is activism, and it's not a waste of time. It's not a really waste of resources. And if your objective as a libertarian activist is to spread the philosophy and introduce it to new people every day, then running for office is the way you're going to do that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree 100%. Absolutely, yes. You are. You can definitely introduce the philosophy to new people, and that's always a good thing. There are people who still haven't heard the name libertarian, and may not know what libertarians stand for. So that's always an opportunity to introduce it to new people. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll end it there because we went over a little bit, but we're going to be back tomorrow at 7. I don't know if we're going to be here Wednesday because I have somewhere to be on Wednesday, but Thursday we're going to go live with the other Libertarian candidates in New Jersey if you want to tune in for that. And if you want to help either of our campaigns, if you're in New Jersey, you have Libertarians to vote for. You have Vic Kaplan here to vote for as governor, and if you're up in the Northwest area, you have me to vote for District 24. If you want to just volunteer for the campaign, message me on one of the very many platforms that I'm on, or email me or whatever. Our tags are at the bottom there. If you don't live in the state of New Jersey, you can still help the campaigns. You can help boost our social media posts. You can watch our live streams like you're doing now, ask questions. That helps. It helps move the conversation and get viewers. Or you can donate. You can go to either of our websites and donate money. We are running active campaigns, which means we have social media ads going. We have banners. We're tabling events. We have to print handbills and signs and all these things that cost money, unfortunately. So you can help us in a lot of different ways if that's something you're interested in. But like I said, just watching our live streams helps. I appreciate it. We have almost 1,000 viewers between TikTok and StreamYard. So thank you for watching, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow night. All right? Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your questions. Good night.